Thank you, Jason. That was lovely. Good morning, friends. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. My name is Linda Battellini, and I serve as the treasurer of the congregation and as a member of your board of trustees. Ours is a community of diverse theologies, of people with various cultural, racial, and class backgrounds. We welcome people with a broad range of gender and sexual identities and people with disabilities and abilities, both seen and unseen. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to join us with your whole self, here where we come for community, we find inspiration, and we live with purpose together. As we've been hearing this summer, we draw our inspiration as Unitarian Universalists from many sources. Today we'll consider how the direct experience of the ultimate mysteries that each of us brings into this community enriches all of us and helps us renew our spirits. And you'll hear from two of our members, one of whom has gone through our new Leadership Development Lead program this year, and they'll share how it has shaped their personal journey. Today is the last service led by Greg Bonin, who is finishing his 2-year ministerial internship with us and his service as our summer minister. Greg developed our lead program with Leanne Williams, and he is now in the final stretch of his preparation for his interview with the Ministerial Fellowship Committee in the fall. We are a teaching congregation here at UUCA, and we have the great delight to accompany many aspiring to ministry as they develop their skills and share their journey with us. And we've so enjoyed our time with Greg, especially over this summer exploration of the 6 sources. Next week, Reverend Amanda will return and will officially say our farewells to Greg. And this week, we extend our grateful best wishes to our interim music director, Dr. Jesse Leong, who brought their outstanding musical skills and their careful coaching and musical leadership to our choir. Thank you, Jesse. And if we have any tradition here at UUCA, it's that when we say goodbye, we have cake. So please stay for our coffee hour, and we'll celebrate Jesse with our cake, and you can thank them for all the gifts that they've brought to us.
Welcome, folks. I'm glad you're here. I invite you now to turn to your neighbor and say hello, greet, share your name if they're not familiar to you. What are you snapping shots of? So as we come back to our seats and settle in, our call to worship this morning comes from my colleague, Andrea Hawkins Kemper. In the houses of the holy, the world pauses. In the hearts of the holy, love abides. In the havens of the holy, hope comforts. In the hearths of the holy, spirit refreshes. Come then, one and all, gather in. Come then, one and all, gather here. Bring here all of your heart. Bring here all of your body. Bring here all of your spirit. Come then, and bring the broken, the vulnerable, the ragged, the outcast, the other. Come then, one and all, gather in. Come then, and gather in. Let us worship together.
We have a tradition of lighting a candle of compassion, and this week we're holding in our hearts those affected by fires in Hawaii on Maui, facing the loss of loved ones and the destruction of homes and livelihoods. We also hold those who daily face attempts to systematically regulate their dignity and worth because of who they are and who they love. And now we'll light our chalice. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world.
Must have been mid-afternoon. I could tell by how far the child's shadow stretched out. He walked with a purpose, and he goes down the street. He had many questions, like children often. He said, tell me all your thoughts on God. Tell me, am I very far? It must have been late afternoon. On our way free from the clouds. We count only blue cars, skip the cracks in the streets and ask many questions like children often do. We said, tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I'd really like to meet her and ask her why we're who we are. And tell me all your thoughts on God, and tell me, am I very far? It's getting cold, picked up the pace. How our shoes make hard noises in this place. Our clothes are stained. We cross many cross-eyed people and ask many questions like children often do. We said, tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I'd really like to meet her. Tell me, am I very far? Tell me all your thoughts on God, 'cause I'm on my way to see her. Tell me, am I very far?
Thanks, y'all. That was great. I'd like to invite now all the youth, kids, young at heart to come up to the chancel and join me for a story. Any adults that are young at heart, you're welcome to join us. We're going to hear a story about Ferdinand the Bull. Hey, Teague.
How did you know I was Teague?
Well, you've got your name right there on your name tag.
I know.
Come on up. Come on up. Excellent.
Hello?
Yeah. So this is the story of Oh, come on up. Come on up. Yeah. Oh, I love your little bag. It's a little kitty. So this is a story about a bull in Madrid in Spain. Do y'all know where Spain is by any chance? Another country? No? Geography a little?
Three.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. So this is a story of Ferdinand the Bull. And once upon a time in Spain, there was a little bull, and his name was Ferdinand.
Okay, I'm sorry, but this was my favorite story as a kid.
Yes! 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 Excellent. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together, but not Ferdinand. He liked to just sit quietly and smell the flowers. Do y'all like to smell flowers? Do you like? Yeah, you do. I know. Yes, they're pretty. Yes. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture just under a cork tree. You could see him here smelling the flowers under the cork tree. It was his favorite tree, and he would sit in its shade all day and just smell the flowers. Sometimes his mother would worry about him. She was afraid that he'd be lonesome all by himself. "Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head," she would say. But Ferdinand would shake his head. "I like it better here, where I can just sit quietly and smell the flowers." His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, she let him just sit there and be happy. Do y'all like to just sit and be happy sometimes? Yeah? Yeah? As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong, and you could see he's got his horns now. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns, what they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight in Madrid. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to sit just quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in to pick the biggest, fastest, roughest bull to fight in Madrid. And all the other bulls ran around snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care. So he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. And he didn't look where he was sitting. Instead of sitting on the nice, cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do?
Sting him?
Yes, exactly. You would sting him, and that's just what this bee did to Ferdinand. Wow, did it hurt! Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting and butting and pawing the ground as if he were angry. The 5 men who came to find a bull to fight all shouted with joy. Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one for the fights in Madrid. So they took Ferdinand away for the fight day in the cart. And what a day it was! Flags were flying, bands were playing, a little bit like we had earlier just now, and all the lovely people had flowers in their hair. They even had a parade into the bull ring. First came all the people who wanted to fight the bull. They had pointy sticks and capes, and they wanted to be able to prove that they could fight. And then came the bull, and you know who that bull was, don't you? It was Ferdinand, that's exactly right. They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and everyone was afraid of him. Ferdinand ran into the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns around. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers and all the lovely people's hair, and he just sat down quietly and smelled the air. Oh, he wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled those flowers. And all the fighters were mad because they couldn't show off by fighting in front of all the people. So they had to take Ferdinand home. And for all I know, he's sitting there still to this very day under his favorite cork tree, smelling the flowers just quietly. And he is very happy. And that's the end. Thank you all for joining me.
So good, right?
So we're going to sing the children out now to their classes. If you'd like to lead us, Jesse.
Peace to you on your way. May you grow in love each day, meeting new friends and opening your mind to the wonders of the world you will find. To the wonders of the world you will find.
So I invite you now into a time of imaginative meditation. And if it's comfortable for you, just take a few breaths at a pace that matches your body. And as you inhale, you may wish to adjust your position so that your spine, or wherever works for your body, is resting into the seat. And as you exhale, consider relaxing and softening your body. You may find it helpful to relax your eyes and close them partially or fully. just adopting a soft gaze and landing into the shape of your own body. Feel yourself connected to the earth through your feet or your wheels or the rub of your cane. Feel yourself grounded and connected. Give yourself permission for your body to settle and let your seat or the floor support your body as your breath continues, soft and easy. You find yourself on a journey toward the forest. You brought all of your senses with you. The sunlight falls gently on your head, and as you look up, you can see clouds stretched like gauze in front of a soft blue sky. There's no breeze now, but you could have sworn there was a breeze a moment ago. Still, you can smell everything around you. The humus of old leaves, the almost sweet scent of bark warming in the sun, and the clean tang of minerals in the rocks. Water is trickling in the distance, filtered through the trees. The birds are quiet today, but you catch an occasional whistle and chirp as an unseen bird calls out. Pause for a moment and just take it all in. As you take your first steps toward the forest and into the woods, you realize that whatever you need, whatever you're looking for, this forest is part of your journey. Maybe it's a moment's peace. Maybe you're meeting someone on the other side of the path. Maybe you just need to be somewhere besides where you've been. Whatever it is, you remember that ultimately you are not alone. You continue to follow the path into the forest canopy, holding this sense of companionship lightly. The trees aren't dense, but there are enough to mute the sounds from outside and hold the light dappled on leaves that obscure the sky. You occasionally glimpse the smooth silvery bark of the beech, the horizontal stippling on a wild cherry, or a fallen oak being reclaimed by the forest's floor. The light changes as you continue down the path, playing on your head and skin. Your body reminds you that you are a part of this forest. You are a part of everything. You pause again, taking in the rhythm of the life around you. As endings sometimes do, you notice that you have strolled right to the end of this path. The trees thin out, the canopy recedes, and you can see the sky again. You take a deep breath, or whatever breath your body is calling to you in this moment. And let's take a few breaths together, whatever's comfortable for you. Breathing in and out, coming back to your body, wherever you are, back to this space. And I invite you to open your eyes and come back to this shared space together, where you are part of everything.
Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla al volar, sube en la mar hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
In August, we'll be sharing our plate with Path Forward's Bagged Meal program. Path Forward, formerly A-SPAN, strives to transform lives by delivering housing solutions and pathways to stability. UUCA volunteers gather monthly to prepare bagged meals for people experiencing homelessness. In 2022 and 2023, the program expanded to twice a month, doubling the number of meals donated by the UUCA community. 70% of today's offering will be shared with Path Forward, and 30% of the offering will support our ongoing work here at UUCA. You can give today with cash in a plate, check, or any of the methods listed in your order of service on our website or on your screen if you're joining us online. However you give, whether it's time, talent, or treasure, thank you for your support today. Will the ushers please collect the offering at this time?
Every night we stare into the darkness, searching for a sign. One solitary moment in a million proves you're alive. 1,000 years an ordinary diamond appears. You only ever come across an island when it's near. And now I'm left to wonder if I'm walking through a dream. And standing next to you in dark may lead to something real. And every day we search for ways enlightened, but unfound. We're passing through the world for something perfect, but not around. 1,000 years an ordinary diamond appears. You only ever come across an island when it's near. And now I'm left to wonder if I'm walking through a dream and standing next to you in dark may lead to something real. A light inside divides and unites. A light inside divides and unites. A light.
Thank you for that music. I think that was an original composition. Awesome. Cool. We bless and receive these gifts, opening our hearts to true generosity. Let us be grateful when we give, be it time, talent, or treasure. Let us be grateful for our needs and the experience of vulnerability. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts to nurture this congregation.
Today is the final Sunday of our Six Sources Summer Series. Our series has explored the sources of our living tradition of Unitarian Universalism by hearing voices and stories that invite us to hear how the sources are actually lived, both personally and socially. If you're not familiar with the sources, you can think of them as sources of inspiration to live our best lives. The six sources can be described as the sense of wonder that we all share, prophetic people from long ago and today, people whose lives remind us to be kind and fair, the ethical and spiritual wisdom of the world's religions, Christian and Jewish teachings which tell us to love all others as we love ourselves, humanist teachings that rely upon reason and the discoveries of science, and the harmony of nature and the sacred circle of life. Theologian Edward Foley writes, "Being invited to journey into another's way of believing is an invitation to holy ground." This summer, we have been invited to holy ground. Every person who has shared their story on this chancel has had a deep connection with our UUCA community. They've invited us to witness how they live our six sources. You might know that the six sources are being reimagined in the work of the Article 2 Study Commission. In the coming year, you'll have the opportunity to learn about and discuss the proposed changes to our faith's mission. And if you haven't heard of Article 2, you will. I hope you will carry into that conversation a remembrance of how folks here have lived the six sources as a prompt to imagine how living our plural sources of inspiration can read differently into our future. But this morning, we're exploring the sense of wonder that we all share. And the full text of that source reads, "Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which move us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness of the forces which create and uphold life." And first, we'll hear from Betsy Rosso, who was part of our spiritual lay leadership cohort earlier this year. And Leanne, would you come up and tell us a little bit about the LEAD program?
Thanks, Greg. Good morning, friends. Happy Sunday. It's good to see all of you. Often, in coffee hour or downstairs, I'm often asked, what is the LEAD program? What does that stand for? Leadership, Exploration, and Development. What's that about? And often following that question, and how can LEAD help me to funnel more people into my ministry, my project? How can I get more people to attend the rally? And my response is, well, LEAD is not that kind of program. LEAD's purpose, its particular gift, is in cultivating the capacity for self-examination. LEAD is about providing folks the skills and courage to act in life-giving ways in the midst of congregational life. Not just conflict, but congregational life. LEAD is about nurturing and growing your spirit in healthy ways. LEAD is also about nurturing human relationships. And often when I deliver that answer, I'm asked, so what are the skills, what are the deliverables of LEAD? Again, how's LEAD gonna get people to the rally? And I encourage people, think about it this way. With the LEAD program, those soft skills are the hard skills. LEAD is about creating trustworthy leadership that is firmly planted in our UU values. LEAD is based on the idea that a well-grounded, self-differentiated congregant who can turn to wonder during conflict, who can hold healthy boundaries and fiercely refuse to engage in triangulation, that's a leader. And a person grounded in these practices, now that person will get people to your rally. What I appreciate most about my own journey with LEAD is how it challenged everything that I thought I understood about congregational leadership. I mark this year as my 19th year as a DRE, so I've been doing this a while, inspired by Shane. And I thought I knew at least a lot about how to resource and grow congregational leaders, a little bit of building your own theology, set you up with a good elevator speech, learn the principles by heart, which are probably getting reimagined anyway, and maybe, you got a bookmark with those sources in your purse or in your pocket somewhere, done, right, congregational leader. But LEAD taught me that being differentiated, turning to wonder, acting in life-giving ways, all in the context of community, and face it, community can be really, really complex. That's real leadership. It's not about learning things by heart, having a pithy elevator speech, being able to whip out that bookmark. That's not it. But about accepting vulnerability, leading, being differentiated, turning to wonder. I personally find these moments energizing when my fundamental assumptions about life are completely challenged and dismantled, refuted, negated. And that in that space when something new emerges, when I am living that first source, overwhelmed by the feeling of wonder and awe, in that space where something I could not imagine is possible, awash in wonder. Those are the moments that call me forward. That's when I'm appreciative of LEAD, because not only was I a co-creator, but I was a student. So I encourage you to stop by the table. I'd love to share with you more about becoming awash in the sense of wonder in congregational leadership. Thank you.
to let go. I can be a mountain when you're feeling valley low. I can be a street light showing you the way home. You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world, but we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. If we want a garden, we're gonna have to sow the seeds, plant a little happiness, let the roots run deep. If it's love that we give, then it's love that we reap. If we want a garden, we're gonna have to sow the seeds. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. The door is always open, your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken and everyone belongs. Yeah, everyone belongs. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. And bring us back together when the day is done.
Thank you all for that beautiful song. Today's reading is from The Courage to Teach by Parker Palmer. If we want to support each other's inner lives, we must remember a simple truth. The human soul does not want to be fixed. It wants simply to be seen and heard. If we want to see and hear a person's soul, there is another truth we must remember. The soul is like a wild animal, tough, resilient, and yet shy. When we go crashing through the woods shouting for it to come out so we can help it, the soul will stay in hiding. But if we are willing to sit quietly and wait for a while, the soul may show itself.
Good morning. For 2 years, I spent a good chunk of my waking hours talking and writing about this church. As a member of the Ministerial Search Committee, I met with my fellow committee members weekly, and we worked doggedly to discern what the congregation needed in a new minister. Surprise, Unitarian Universalists have a lot of opinions. Our committee had to digest, synthesize, and transform what we learned into UUCA's church profile, an incredibly elaborate version of a job announcement. Then we spent months reviewing applications and sermons of prospective ministers. This role and its attendant responsibilities were heady and hard, and ultimately richly rewarding. It was a privilege to serve UUCA in this capacity, and if I'm being honest, it made me feel kind of important. It's easy for me to make the mistake that what I do for our community is more valuable than who I am. Now, raise your hand if you were part of UUCA in any way in the spring of 2020. so a good amount of you. You may recall that, just as our committee was preparing to recommend Reverend Amanda as the candidate for our senior minister, the pandemic shut everything down. All of our plans to introduce her to the congregation, celebrate a new beginning, and enjoy the fruits of our committee's labor were funneled online or simply forgotten in the crush of a worldwide crisis. I know every one of you here in the sanctuary or watching online has a story like this or a very different one. There are likely a million variations on the theme of how things changed in 2020. Now, 4 years later, I am still feeling the effects of those changes, for better and for worse. Maybe you are too. Who knows how long the ripples will expand throughout our lives? Church has always meant community for me. Throughout my life, community often outweighed theology in my choice of a congregation. I feel lucky to have found in UUCA a place where I feel both a sense of belonging and alignment with the tenets of the faith. From the moment I arrived at UUCA, I felt seen, I felt valued. I understood that my being here mattered. Unfortunately, for a good portion of the year since 2020, I lost that sense of belonging. Not just here, but really anywhere. Does this sound at all familiar to anyone? The isolation of the pandemic was soul-crushing, and I'm a big believer in silver linings. I love my family so much, and I am so thankful for the hours that we spent playing board games, watching movies, making art, going on hikes. But 4 people are not enough for a community. I need different kinds of people and multiple communities to nurture various aspects of my personality and my identity, and I think all of us do. There's a wonderful graphic novel series called Heartstopper, which is now an amazing Netflix show that my kids adore and introduced me to, and which I love now as well. First of all, Heartstopper creator Alice Oseman does a masterful job portraying the pain and beauty of making your way as a teenager, particularly as you come into your gender identity and sexual orientation. Secondly, in book 4 of the series, Charlie, one of the main characters, comes face to face with what feels like an insurmountable struggle. His boyfriend Nick wants so badly, as all of us do when we love someone, to be able to fix Charlie's problem himself. But of course he can't. And Nick realizes that no matter how much he loves Charlie, he can't and shouldn't be everything to him. Charlie needs a community to help him, as do we all. I took baby steps to return to UCA. I co-facilitated a covenant group for parents of gender-expansive kids. That was an easy one, a way to test the waters by creating a small community. Coming back to church on Sunday mornings, however, was a challenge. The first few times I tried, I felt confused and out of sorts. When we were all masked, I felt embarrassed because I didn't recognize people who I had known for years. That kept me home for a while longer. When I came back again, I felt like I had somehow forgotten how to interact with other human beings. Once, after a service ended, I just sat in the back and cried. Holly Carr saw me and sat with me. She didn't ask me to explain myself. She just kept me company. So when I heard about the LEAD program that Greg and Leanne were running, I knew I had found a path back to community. I wasn't sure what my role was supposed to be in the congregation, but this was an opportunity to meet new people and reconnect with old friends, so I took it. The irony, or perhaps the intention, as Leanne talked about, of joining LEAD was being reminded that I didn't need to have a leadership position or a particular responsibility in the congregation to belong. When I arrived for that first workshop, I was so warmly welcomed back. Wendy Jessup and Kristen Patterson, among other folks, let me know that they were genuinely delighted to see me again, without asking why I hadn't come back sooner, or what I was going to be doing for the church now that I was back, or without any other expectations whatsoever. After the session, I gave Kristen a ride home, and we sat in my car, parked outside her house for an hour, catching up. It was such a relief to renew the connection. I know I'm name-dropping a lot this morning. I intentionally want to recognize the people who've shown me so much grace and love in building and rebuilding community here. One of my favorite activities during the LEAD workshops was using the World of Experience map as a tool to examine where I've been and where I want to go. If you've never seen it before, you can check out the World of Experience map at the lead table in the fellowship hall after the service. In the meantime, picture this. A map that, at first glance, looks like it could be a two-dimensional representation of Earth. But on closer inspection, the familiar continents and oceans are replaced by other geographies, named for elements of the human experience, like the Sea of Possibilities, Mountains of Work, Plains of Solitude. On several occasions, we use the map of experience as a way to articulate the challenges and adventures in our past and present, and where we hope to navigate in the future. In all of my conversations, my partners shared their journeys with unapologetic honesty and invited the same vulnerability in me. The guiding principles practiced during the LEAD series were touchstones created by Parker Palmer and the Center for Courage and Renewal. One of these is no fixing, saving, advising, or connecting each other. In our type A problem-solving culture, that's a particularly tough one for many of us to follow, but it's so important. Participating in the LEAD workshops reminded me that this congregation is a safe place for me, where my wild animal soul can show itself. That's how I experience moments of mystery and wonder, when I feel truly seen and understood. Of course, church is far from the only community that can nurture the soul. Some communities are intimate and some are vast, but both can offer sustenance. My 16-year-old is a member of the seemingly infinite community of Swifties, devotees of pop star Taylor Swift. While her knowledge of Taylor Swift's catalog and every minute detail of every concert on the Eras Tour may verge on obsessive, it is clear that she and other Swifties find joy and meaning in listening to the music, experiencing the music, and talking about the music with each other. The community that my 10-year-old thinks of as their second home is Smile, a DC-based organization that provides resources, connections, and activities for LGBTQIA+ young people ages 6 to 24. My kid has found kindred spirits, role models, and unwavering and unconditional support for their whole self at Smile. Their wild animal soul feels free to lead a dance party whenever they're with their Smile peeps. As Parker Palmer wrote, if we want to support each other's inner lives, we must remember a simple truth. The human soul does not want to be fixed. It simply wants to be seen and heard. I am thankful to be a member of this and other communities where my soul can be seen and heard. Cultivating that kind of community, something greater than any of us individually, which can only be created with intention and love, is a sacred act. Sometimes we can build community, and sometimes we just stumble into it. We don't always know where we will find community or where we will experience that sensation of truly belonging, but we surely know it when we feel it. Some may call that providence or divine intervention. To me, that certainty of belonging is a product of the mystery and wonder of the universe. Whatever you call it, I wish for you the comfort, safety, and nourishment of community, wherever you may find it. May it be so.
The thread of the world is making the sheet, from the word to the deed, and the tree to the leaf, from the high overlook to the mountainside, tying up to a star in the skirt of the sky. You must empty your pockets of stones. There light-hearted you may go, for you must go with the stitch of the world into the stitch of the world. White is the quick of the loom and the pin. Red is the mark where the needle comes in. As it weaves through your heart, try not to be scared. like a bird on a string in the blanket of air. You must empty your pockets of stones. There light-hearted you may go, for you must go with the stitch of the world into the stitch of the world. Shape to a shadow, shadow to a dream, where the mouth of the river is joined in a seam, to the wind and the waves pulling into a crease, at the strands of the bank sewing into your feet. Empty your pockets of stones. There light-hearted you may go, for you must go with the stitch of the world into the stitch of the world.
Thank you again for the lovely music, and thank you, Betsy, for your beautiful reflection on community. We now have a reading from Rainier Maria Rilke from Ahead of All Parting, the selected poetry and prose of Rainier Maria Rilke, translated by Stephen Mitchell. Ah, not to be cut off, not through the slightest partition, shut out from the law of the stars. The inner, what is it? If not intensified sky, hurled through with birds and deep with the winds of homecoming. And now we'll hear a reflection from Jane McKeel.
I must begin by saying that there's no way that I can explain the meaning of spirit and transcendence, thank you, to you or to anyone. What I can do is share a bit of what I've learned over several decades, much of it here at UUCA. In a lively spirituality reading group in this congregation in the 1990s, the most unforgettable book we read and discussed over several months was A Path with Heart, a guide through the perils and promises of spiritual life by Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield. Kornfield is also a founder of the Insight Meditation Society, and many of you know Jonathan Faust of the DC area Insight Meditation community, who has led meditation sessions in our sanctuary on Monday evenings for several years, now on Zoom, I believe. Jonathan's wife is a spiritual teacher, Tara Brock, who was the keynote speaker at one of the weekend conferences hosted by UUCA's Labyrinth Project. My decade working with our congregation's Labyrinth remains a highlight of my experience with meditation and highlight of my life. And I would add also that the 6 years I served as co-director of religious education here were also a highlight of my life. My experience practicing the healing art of Reiki has educated me a great deal about the power of energy within and surrounding us, the opportunities to explore spirituality and transcendence abound within these walls and far beyond. To consider spirit is to explore a reality other than the external world that we touch, taste, and measure. The concept of transcendence suggests to me the experience of being in the physical world while not being limited to it and seeing through it to other truths. As Fra Giovanni put it in his immortal letter to a friend back in 1513. The gloom of the world is but a shadow. Behind it, yet within our reach, is joy. We humans have both analytical and intuitive ways of perceiving. To use only one of these ways can lead to imbalance. Wholeness, I believe, rests in our using both modes of perception. The thinking analytical mind and the ego are our tickets through this visible, actual plane, the doing mode. We cannot leave home without them. What about the intuitive and the being mode? Lawrence LeShan, in his classic manual, How to Meditate, describes mysticism as the search for and experience of the relationship between the individual and the totality that makes up the universe. A knowledge which LeShan says is our birthright. Mystics, explains LeShan, are people who either have this knowledge as background music to their daily lives or who strive to attain it. This knowledge includes a deep sense of the union between oneself and the all. LeShan goes on to say that the noun mystic and the verb to close have the same root, so that the mystical search involves closing off barriers to that understanding about the self's relation to the universe. This is where our intuitive power comes into play, for it is our ticket for transcending the outer world and the ego in order to enter that realm of being. These barriers to that include rarely taking time out, not stepping back from the external hustle and bustle to contact the voice of inner truth, never blocking out the noisy to hear the wisdom of silence. Mystics throughout the ages have also been telling us that we carry a whole universe inside ourselves, and that to experience that deepest self, that self with a capital S, brings a wondrous recognition that living beings are not separate from one another. People who really understand this will do no harm to any life form, including the living planet itself. Lauren Artris, Episcopal priest and founder of Riditas, the worldwide Labyrinth Project, says, compassion is the core teaching of all the world's spiritual traditions. Native American spirituality has long proclaimed what we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. This sacred truth has never in our lifetimes been more evident than it is today. Early in the 20th century, the Indian sage and mystic Ramana Maharshi articulated a self-inquiry tradition. A devotee of one of Maharshi's disciples is spiritual leader Gangaji, an American woman who, by the way, led a large retreat here at UUCA during the 1990s. Gangaji explains, and I'm quoting here, recognize yourself as that consciousness which pervades everything as beingness. What a treasure is revealed. In this recognition, there is no grasping. What could be grasped? You are overflowing as the truth of universal beingness. You may see what looks like people, what looks like trees, what looks like flowers, or what looks like insects. But in self-recognition, it is seen that what is at the core of all of these appearances is your own self. What a meeting this is self to self. End of quote. Through my limited experience with mindfulness and other forms of meditation, I've come to glimpse an alternative way of perceiving reality that is not limited to my thinking mind. In fact, the point is to quiet the mind, not very easy, and move beyond thinking to feel in the gut almost the invisible creative force moving through all of creation. Many voices throughout history and today serve as guides to this inner truth. The Buddha, Lao Tzu, Isaiah, Micah, and Jesus, Rumi and Kabir, Hildegard of Bingen, Meister Eckhart, Thich Nhat Hanh, and Eckhart Tolle, to name some. Matthew Fox was excommunicated from the Catholic Church for his luminous insights concerning creation spirituality. The beginning of religion, says Fox, cannot be some incident of human behavior or misbehavior like sin inside Eden. The starting point for religion is rather the cosmic birth of creation. The universe came into being. We are here. How glorious to participate in living. A number of people, including a couple of my acquaintances, have reported self-actualization experiences, minutes or several hours or even days of heightened awareness and radiance, filled with intense love and joy of connectedness. I have sensed clues or brief signals at times which felt transcendent, as probably most of you have. But that intense, total type of enlightenment has not happened to me. Still, I cannot discount it. Neither can I rule out such phenomena as channeling, spirit guides, or past life regression. I simply do not know, and I don't feel capable of judging one way or the other. The nature of the universe, its mysteries of life and death, all of that is not limited by what the human mind can imagine. What I have learned from various teachers is that not only are we one with all beings, but also that within each of us is a space of infinite stillness where that sacred connection is felt, the still small voice. When spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle is asked how to gain that deep inner sense of peace, he says, "You have it already. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise." Jon Kabat-Zinn, founder of the Stress Reduction Clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, says, "All the suffering, stress, addiction comes from not realizing you already are what you are looking for." Kabat-Zinn goes on to explain, and I'm quoting here, "Perhaps ultimately, spiritual simply means experiencing wholeness and interconnectedness directly, a seeing that individuality and the totality are interwoven, that nothing is separate. If you see in this way, then everything becomes spiritual in its deepest sense. Doing science is spiritual. So is washing the dishes. It is the inner experience which counts. You have to be there for it. All else is mere thinking." As Gangaji puts it, the true teaching is everywhere. Just stop hoping for it to look a certain way, expecting it to speak or act a certain way, and you will hear it. It is everywhere. It is coming off every pine needle.
Before we close our time together today, I want to share some gratitude. Music is such an important part of what we do here, and we've had some fantastic music this whole summer, thanks to our guest musicians. Thank you. And I've also had the privilege to work alongside Dr. Jesse Leong as our interim music director, who's shared their gifts with us for 2 seasons. And so we want to express some gratitude and to Jesse and send them off with the beauty of some flowers and some cheer. So please join me in expressing appreciation for Jesse's time with us this year. Yes, thank you.
Oh, very sweet.
Yes, you're welcome. Here's a card from this side. And even though our order of service says we have a hymn coming up, we're actually going to move into the chalice extinguishing. And if you know the closing song when we get to it, Learning to Fly by Tom Petty, you are more than welcome to sing along in the chorus.
We extinguish this chalice, but not the light and warmth it represents. These we carry with us, bringing our sparks of love to the world.
And folks, may you be firmly grounded in this universe and also guided by unbounded perception. May you fully engage your imagination as human creature, but not be limited by it. May you hold loosely to your understanding, remaining open to the mystery and wonder that surrounds you. And may you find resilience in the joy of community and the transcendence of community here in our interdependent web of existence. Thank you.
Well, I started out down a dirty road. I started out all alone, and the sun went down as I crossed the hill, and the town lit up, and the world got still. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got no wings.
Learning to fly,
Coming down is the hardest thing.
hardest thing.
Where the good old days may not return, and the cracks might melt, and the sea may burn. Well, some say life will beat you down, break your heart, steal your crown. So I started out for God knows where. I guess I'll know when I get there. I'm learning to fly,
Learn to fly,
but I ain't got no wings.
learning to fly,
Coming down is the hardest thing.
hardest thing.
I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got no wings.
Ain't got wings.
Coming down is the hardest thing.
Hardest thing.
Thank you.